Alright guys, today I'm going to do a video comparing the JBL Stage A130 and the Sony CS5s. Both two-way bookshelf speakers. Sony's arguably three-way, but the super tweeters more or less, if I don't remember for sure, but I think it's like 12,000 and up, something like that. So most of what it's doing, your music's not going to really have much of those frequencies in it anyway, and well, some people are probably not going to be able to hear it very well anyway, so it's more or less a two-way, arguably what you're getting from the super tweeter. I don't know. The Sonys have been pretty much the king of budget bookshelf speakers. The only other thing I can think of that's really come along would be the Numi BS5. I think they're the BS5. I haven't had a set of those yet, but from other reviews and measurements that people have been doing on them, they look really good at $100, where the Sonys tend to float around on sale. Low as 73, other times 118. Full price, I think it's like 150, but you almost will never see them at full price. I think usually you see them for around 118. And at 118, they're still an absolute steal. They're a very good speaker at 118 bucks. Not perfect, but very good for the money. Very, very good. Arguably beating out speakers that cost 2 or 3 times as much in some cases. The JBLs, I think their full price normally is $300. I have seen them at $250, as low as $180. I usually go to JBL's actual website. It seems like they're always having sales on their actual website. I got mine. I don't remember. I've had them for a while now. I think they were on sale on Amazon for $180, and there was an open box for $150 or $160. I don't remember. But they came and didn't look like whoever returned them didn't do anything with them. I got lucky, I guess. They're pretty much new. But on the low end, you'll see them around 180, high end, full price 300, and I'm assuming they land somewhere in between that off and on. But even at that price, even at 300, I still, if I knew they were never gonna go on sale, it's 300 period, I would still pay that. The only reason I would wait is because they tend to go on sale quite often. And if you've watched my recent review, I chose the Stage A130 over the Studio 530s, which are usually much more expensive. Those do go on sale for pretty cheap sometimes as well, but they're full price. They're twice as expensive as the A130. And after about just a month of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, I firmly landed on the Stage A130. And I believe even on like Audio Science Review, they even measure a little better than the Studio 530s. They actually, the Stage A130s actually measure very well. They outmeasure, if you care about measurements, they outmeasure some bookshelf speakers, you know, upwards in that $1,000 range, some even a little more. But anyway, I'm just going to run through some copyright-free tracks. As usual with my comparison videos, these are not a literal fidelity test. This is just for fun. Really, there's no way, I don't care how good a microphones or whatever recording equipment, you can record a speaker and listen to it back through another speaker in another room and know how it sounds. It's just not possible. But it may give you some idea. We're just going to do this together, then I'm going to tell you the differences that I hear in my listening space. I'll be powering it with my Harman Kardon HK3490. Quick backstory: I had no idea this thing existed. I just remember from a few years back the Harman Kardon receivers that had the halo volume knob, and I always thought they were kind of neat and wanted to have one in person and check it out, and you know. And on eBay, I didn't know they made a stereo version. I thought they were all home theater receivers. I just come across one that said it was a stereo I figured the seller didn't know what they're talking about, but looking at the pictures, it's just a stereo receiver. I'm like, okay, it's $100. Didn't even really. It was the aesthetically, it was the style, the generation that I was looking for. It was only $100. I didn't realize a lot of other things till after I got it. It actually is a 2.2. It has two subwoofer outputs, and then your typical A and B outputs. So technically, it's a 2.2 stereo receiver, which is pretty cool. And then the other thing, I didn't look into it until after I got it. I Google searched it, and it turns out Audioholics tested and measured this stereo receiver from Harman Kardon. It actually measures extremely well. And I believe, it was a while ago when I read it, but I think it's considered a high current or something. I don't remember what Harman Kardon rates it at. I don't remember. I think they rated it at like 120 times 2 and 8 ohms, and it actually tested closer to like 140 times 2 and 8 ohms, and then at 4 ohms it was like, I think at 4 ohms it was pushing, I want to say around 170 watts times 2 and 4 ohms. Turns out it's just a 2-channel beast. They're actually kind of hard to find. I've seen a 33 HK3390. I haven't really looked lately. I haven't seen another HK3490, but so it was kind of a nice surprise, I guess. $100, and it turns out it's actually really good stereo, and Audioholics has the measurements to back it up. So it's kind of my new main amplifier right now. I still have a few other ones floating around. I sold the Marantz because this thing just totally outpowers it. And this is kind of taking over that Marantz SR4021 I had. Anyway, let's get started. I'm just going to verbally let you guys know when I'm switching from what speaker to what. We'll start with it on the JBLs. Switch to the Sonys. And back to the JBL. Sonys. JBL. Sonys. Back to the JBL. Sonys. JBL. Sonys. JBL. Sony's. JBL. Sony's. JBL. Sony's. Back to the JBL. No. Sony's. JBL. Sony's. Back to the JBL. No, let's see. The Sony's. Back to the JBL. Sony's. JBLs. Okay. I know it's not the best music to go through, but the copyright stuff is just ridiculous anymore. And I don't want to deal with it. So this is what I have that's copyright free right now. If you have any, I guess you can always pay. If you have any recommendations for other free copyright music that's not terrible quality, put it in the comments below. But anyway, first of all, I could live with either. They both sound good. Like, if I had to give one set away, you know, if I could only keep the Sonys or if I could only keep the JBL, either way, I don't think I'd be too upset or whatever. If I had a choice, I would still probably, well, not probably. If I had a choice, I would keep the JBL. They go a little bit deeper, not much. I think they both hang around in the mid to low 50 hertz range for the lows, but they have a little bit better as far as deep bass. It's a little bit better. And then just as far as being very flat or neutral, that doesn't mean flat as in boring. When they refer to speakers flat or neutral, it just means it's not changing or affecting the original signal. It's just repeating what it is being fed. So they are in this price range, or I mean, out of a lot of speakers I've heard, they are very neutral, very honest, if you want to use an audiophile term or whatever. The tweeters with their waveguide, they're not a horn. What does that say? Not every waveguide is a horn, but every horn is a waveguide, or something like that. But anyway, they're off-axis. That waveguide really helps their off-axis, which also really helps probably their biggest strong point over the Sonys is they have really good imaging and soundstage. And a lot of it does come down to some music, the way it was recorded and performed, yada yada, in the studio. Some songs do image better than others. You get one of those songs that images really well with these JBLs properly placed in the room and everything, in a decent room like mine. I have plenty of acoustic treatment. The imaging is ridiculous on some songs. I think one of them was a Tom Petty song. I don't remember which one it was now, but I could almost feel things falling off the wall. Anyway, I could almost feel like Tom Petty's, like the texture of his voice coming out of that old Magnavox boombox up there. It's like he was standing there singing in front of me. It's like when you hear stuff like that for the first time, I've experienced that before and stuff, but almost every time it almost seems unreal that just two speakers can create that kind of soundstage and that image when everything is done right. And it doesn't have to be some $100,000 setup or whatever. I mean, maybe those do sound better, but for not a ton of money, you can get a long ways with a really good sounding setup, especially with today's technology. But yeah, with the JBLs, it seems for me, it's that the deep bass, very flat or neutral. Tweeters, even though they're aluminum dome, they're not harsh at all. That's the other thing, you can crank the hell out of them. They handle a lot of power for how small they are. The tweeters never, for a metal dome, never get shouty and stabbing you in the ear. Maybe if you got crappy music and a really crappy amplifier. But even with what I've been using, you can crank them up and they just loud and clear. And the detail is not, I wouldn't, for a metal dome, it's not like sharp, razor sharp detail. It's a very articulate detail, very clean, well done. Just an excellent speaker for the money, even at $300, really. And then the Sonys, what I like about them is they still, I think it's around 55 hertz or whatever. You get down in the 50s with a bookshelf speaker. That's plenty low for a bookshelf speaker. And most of the time, going through my mini DSP, I have my front speakers cut off at 80 hertz anyway, because I usually have a sub on. But the Sonys have plenty good bass for a bookshelf speaker. And then you can accentuate that by placing them closer to a wall or more in a corner and kind of exacerbate or whatever the low end on them a bit. For what I always come back to noticing with them is the Sonys have really good mid bass and mid range. It makes them seem very big, and almost makes them seem more efficient than they are. I think they're only rated like 87 dB, which is about the same as the JBLs, but they still sound bigger and louder. Excuse me. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the way their frequency response is shaped, having, to my ears, and I think even the measurements agree. I don't remember 100%, but they have good mid bass and they have good mid range, which seems to make them seem a little bigger, a little more lively. You know, it's kind of one of those bookshelf speakers. If you hung a curtain in front of them and played them, most people would think they're bigger than they actually are. And then the treble or high end on them, it's not quite as you know, I guess I will go. It's not as quite as articulate, like I said before, as the JBLs, but it's very good. They're not harsh. They're not sharp. They don't carry a lot of sibilance or whatever. Very respectable high end. Especially, again, what it's always going to come back to them, or what it's always going to come back to with them, is the cost. If nobody knew any better, you took them to somebody that knows nothing about speakers and told them these speakers cost $500 and played them for them, some decent, good quality, good source music or whatever, they'd probably believe it. They do sound really good, especially for the money. For me, overall, I do prefer the JBL. I'm not gonna say this, and this goes with a lot of audio gear. I think the word better is used too often when the word different would be more well suited for what goes on in a lot of these sort of scenarios. I'm not going to say, even though the JBLs do measure objectively, 100% measure better than the Sonys. But not everybody cares about the objective point of view. Some people care more just about what they hear in the story. And I'm not going to say the JBLs are 100% better than the Sonys. I'm just going to say they're different. And that's why I could live with either. I'm glad I have both. I'll probably always keep both. So, and I just, that way I can interchange them as I want to, depending on what sound I want. So, if you're looking at both of these and your budget's a little on the shallow end and you don't want to wait, just get the Sonys. I'm pretty sure you'll be just happy with them, just fine with them, especially if you integrate a sub in with them. And if you have some money saved up now, but you're not in a hurry and you're fine with saving up a little bit longer because the JBLs are much more expensive, I would recommend just waiting another couple months or sell something and get the JBLs. Other than that, because my allergies are killing me, it's not COVID, it's allergies. Already been to the doctor. I get this way every year at this time. Yeah, I think I'm just going to leave you with that. Comments, questions down below as usual. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.